12 jaar oud was George Michael toen hij op een nieuwe school werd geplaatst. De leraar vroeg aan de klas wie hem op sleeptouw wilde nemen. Het was de 12-jarige Andrew Ridgeley die meteen zijn hand opstak. En vanaf dat moment waren George en Andrew onafscheidelijk. Hun levenslange vriendschap was geboren, hun obsessie met muziek de rode draad. Samen schreven ze sketches en liedjes en speelden ze in verschillende formaties, tot alles samenkwam in één overweldigend succesvolle explosie.
On an HP bed, a daddy by the time you're 21. If you're happy with a nappy, then you're in for fun. But you're here, and you're there.
In dit rijtje ontbreekt één liedje, het legendarische Last Christmas. En je gelooft het niet, maar dit jaar is het 40 jaar geleden dat het nummer uitkwam. Ik ben ongelooflijk blij dat hij hier is om dat te vieren. De helft van Wham, hier is Andrew Ridgeley. Andrew, such a pleasure and such an honor to have you here.
Am I being interviewed for a job?
It feels like it, but you're not. You're already a success. In
I've got
Dutch,
a job. Phew.
You've got a job. In the introduction, I spoke in Dutch about how you and George met so long ago, and I explained how he was the new kid in the class, the shy new kid. The teacher asked the class who would be willing to volunteer to help him out, to look out for him, and you immediately raised your hand. And George later said in his life that was a moment of pure destiny. Now, what made you raise your hand when the teacher asked that?
It was all our other classmates put their hands down. That's actually what it was. I wanted a new boy. No one else. I'd never had a new boy conferred into my care, and it just seemed like would be a nice thing to do. And we hit it off immediately. You know, we were kids, like puppies. You know, you got a lot in common. We had music in common and humour in common. So it was a quick friendship.
It was a quick friendship that lasted a lifetime.
Yeah.
How would you describe that friendship?
Well, it was a very close friendship. It was a bond formed, you know, in our formative years, the really important years of our youth. It was an intimate and close relationship. We were really more like brothers than friends. I was very, very fond of him indeed.
You mentioned that you shared a love for music, but also an extremely juvenile sense of humour.
Yes, well, like all schoolboys.
Did you ever outgrow that with him?
No.
Thank goodness for that.
Yeah, that was a constant throughout. Yeah, it really was.
It's been 40 years since Last Christmas was released, and we'd like to go back in time to the birth of that masterpiece. You and George were about 20 years old. You were at home in George's house where he lived with his parents.
Yeah.
It was a boring Sunday afternoon. You were watching football, and suddenly George had this divine intervention. He had an idea for a song. He ran upstairs, and an hour later he came back down and he said, "You have to come listen to something." The first time, because he had written Last Christmas in that hour, the first time you heard that song, what did you think, Andrew?
Well, it was an amazing moment because it was apparent to anyone, certainly to Jog and to me, that he had composed a wonderful song destined to be a classic. It was so immediately identifiable as a work of brilliance and genius that you'd have had to be pretty stupid not to recognise.
Do you remember what you said to him at that moment?
No, I think I was slack-jawed in amazement, just open mouth. Yeah.
You mentioned that you called him Jog. I think maybe that's a childhood nickname, an affectionate nickname.
Yeah.
Maybe
So
for our Dutch viewers, you can explain why you called him Jog.
Sure. Well, his name was Yorgos Kyriakou Panayotou. His dad.
Perfect name for a pop star.
Well, exactly. Trips off the tongue. So to a 12-year-old English boy, that sounded like yogurt. Yogurt. And so it was an easy shortening from yogurt to
And did he appreciate being called Jog?
Didn't like yogurt.
But Jog was...
But Jog stuck.
was
Jog
okay.
stuck, yeah.
In a new documentary about the song, there's this beautiful moment that we get to hear George's voice on an isolated track. So there's no music, just his voice.
Face on a lover with a fire in his heart. Gave you a man undercover, but you tore him apart. Maybe next year I'll give it to someone. I'll give it to someone special, special.
Beautiful.
Yeah, one of the best ever singing voices in contemporary music. We were very lucky to have one of the best singer-songwriters of his generation in the band. Made a difference.
And your best friend.
Yeah.
The clip that went with the song is as legendary as the music. It was filmed in 1984 in Saas-Fee in Switzerland. And the funny thing is, these are not actors. These people were all your friends.
Yeah, for the majority were. Yeah, we had one or two professionals in our midst. But largely, they were our friends, the friends that we would have spent Christmas Eve with at one of George's parties. You know, he had an annual Christmas Eve get-together. So some of us have been friends for many years even then.
Since when you were kids, teenagers, basically.
Since we were teenagers, quite.
When you see the close reading of the video clip, you notice that you're not in any of the last scenes of the video clip, Andrew. What happened?
Well, the assistant director, in his infinite wisdom, decided that he should serve alcohol to the 21-year-olds that were there. So all the glasses had been filled to the brim, and they came in and said, no, it's got to look like you're halfway through the meal, not just started. So we had to drain the drinks, and that rather set the tone for a raucous and ribald afternoon round the table, just as it perhaps would have been had it been the real thing. And it descended. My friends made me laugh so much that my face swelled up, and the director said, you better sit the last scene out, you don't look too good.
For the documentary about Last Christmas, you reunited with all these friends that we see in the original clip. What was it like to go back there with them?
It was a privilege. It was like stepping back into, well, a moment before in many ways, because the relationships and the affections between us are genuine and still last, and have lasted rather. And so it was joyous. It was wonderful to be back there, and we had a great time remembering and recollecting and treading in the footsteps of 40 years ago.
Wham was an incredible success. You had 11 worldwide #1 hits. You conquered America. You conquered the rest of the world. And then in 1986, after only 4 years, I think most people don't realize that, only 4 years, Wham stopped. You split up. And for many people, for all the fans, that came as a shock. But for you, it wasn't a shock.
No, we brought Wham to a close.
Yeah, on your own terms.
Yeah, quite. We understood Wham was going to have a finite lifespan. It was so inextricably linked to our youth and to our youthful friendship that it wasn't going to grow into old age and middle age. It was impossible. It defined vitality. It was defined by vitality and youthful exuberance, and it had to remain that way. And George's development as an artist meant that he would have to step beyond Wham in order to fulfil his artistic destiny. So.
And that was something that you realized at that moment. I mean, you knew his talent.
Yeah, I mean, that became apparent a little quicker than perhaps we thought it might do, because our success was so swift and our aspirations grew as our success grew, and George's development as an artist, I mean, he flourished and he flourished quickly. It was exponential growth. So, yeah, it came sooner than it might have, but we were still, as you said, able to bring Wham to a close on our own terms and go out in a blaze of glory.
In a blaze of glory with a friendship intact, a lifelong friendship intact. And
quite.
When I hear you talk about it, when I read what you've said about it, it seems to me like the ultimate act of friendship, that you can realize that your friend needs to step away to do something, to fulfill probably his destiny or his talent, and that you were capable of doing that even at such a young age.
Well, it wasn't a hard thing to do. You know, he was my best friend and I wanted the best for him, and it didn't cross my mind ever to step in, to get in his way of that. You know, I was as proud of him and the things he achieved subsequently to Wham as I was when we were together, and it was there was no other way that I would have behaved. It's inconceivable, to be honest with you. So yeah, no, I was thrilled for him.
Your friendship survived up until the moment he passed away, which is 8 years ago now, on the first day of Christmas. He loved Christmas. You mentioned the annual Christmas parties he always had for all his friends. What was it like to celebrate Christmas without him?
Well, the first year was really quite difficult. I have a flat in London, and the pedicabs come by, and this time of year they're playing Last Christmas non-stop. So, and it was a constant reminder of his absence, and it was difficult. But time heals, and as Shirley says, we'll mention it later, I'm sure, Last Christmas on Wrap, she says he would have wished to have cast a shadow over Christmas for his friends, and he would have wanted us to enjoy Christmas the way that we enjoyed Christmas together when he was alive. So we are able to do that now. It wasn't quite so easy in the first year or so.
Can you still hear his voice in your head?
Well, yes, his speaking voice, yeah, and his laughter, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's all around me, really, a lot of the time. Certainly at Christmas time, it's inescapable.
Yes,
so,
of course.
But, yeah, I mean, he lives large and strong in the memory of all his friends.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me, Eva.